Hey guys, Tramp John coming at you with another Awaken Chaos Era video. Now today's video is going to be a kind of a quick one where we're going to talk about the guild boss, and more specifically we're going to talk about a unlikely guild boss comp and why it works, what character it has in it that a lot of people are not using, and how much damage it actually does. Now granted, I am not breaking any world records here. At 616k damage, this is not massive, right? It's decent amount, but it's not the best in the world. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna show you what I'm using, how I did this. Most of this is gonna be pretty simple for you guys to understand how to demonstrate what happens, what's the thought process behind it. And maybe if you are someone who's struggling to complete the level 20 chest of the missions, this would be helpful for you. Or even if you'd like to just kind of push a little bit of damage, maybe this will help you understand a kind of a thought process on how to theory craft more compositions for the guild boss. All right, so like I said, guys, we are gonna go ahead and we're gonna dive into the account and we're gonna talk about a guild boss comp that I found to be kind of fun and useful, and over time I think this has some really good potential. So let's go ahead and we're going to pull it up. I'm going to show you what the composition is. We'll do a run. While we're doing the run, I'll kind of explain what made me think about how to do this one, and then we'll go over the stats for the gear of the characters that I currently have, and maybe that'll help you understand what you can do as well. Now keep in mind, I will never manual a guild boss. I'm sorry, but breaking these records of guild boss merits you nothing, in my opinion, as far as time utilized. Like the ROI is not there, so I will never manual these. It's not worth it in my opinion. I'm always going to hit the auto button. So this is 100% an auto button score. This is the champions that I used. Now I used William, Mulhex, Opal, and Brand. Now no, Opal is just this is a single Opal. I never got her ascended or anything of that sort. My Brand is basically max ascended. Mulhex is ascended twice. That did make a bit of a difference, and I'm using these two spells. Now let's go ahead and we'll pop into, well actually first let's talk about the fire boss. Let's talk about his abilities really quickly, and then we'll pop into the battle and we'll talk about it while we're doing it. Deals damage to an enemy, grants a bonus mech slam against attack if the target is a weak against this character's element. So what this means is if you bring like a wind or a wood champion into the battle and he attacks him, this means that he's going to get a bonus mech slam if against that target. So you got to definitely take that into account when building a composition like this. Like notice Mulhex, who always does a lot of damage in our guild, he brought in Yolanda. He basically used the same exact team that he was using for the water one. However, he did not do as much damage because his Urzog and his Yolanda was taking extra hits because of the triple strike. Also, when attacked, this character reflects a portion of damage back to the attackers according to this character's attack. Now that always hurts us a lot when doing any damage, and that's because as you do more and more damage, as you scale up on your damage, you take more damage, right? So this means you need to have some sort of a healing, some sort of a protect, which is why we bring in the Guy's Renewal and why we bring in Mercy. Now, a couple things I want you to note here is we do have these guys kind of turned ordered or tuned here, and that's so that way Opal is last in rotation. Mulhex goes beforehand. We're kind of trying to do this on purpose because we want to proc as many joint attacks as possible, because the way Opal works is she activates her ability, and then the next round is when she actually procs that joint attacks, as you saw there. Notice we're 3 rounds in, we're at about 100k damage right now, and we're going to be going pretty strong pretty quickly. Generally speaking, damage dealing compositions, you want to shoot for anywhere between 20k to 30k damage per round. We're easily hitting that threshold here. We're over 30k damage per round right now, and honestly at certain points in time, depending on how lucky we get on William's A1 proc, we can get more damage out. Now while we're going through this and you're seeing these damage ticks and tallies, let's go ahead and talk about a few things as to why we're using these characters. So for one, Brand is going first because he's putting up a shield. This shield is to basically protect our team and allow them to go X amount of rounds without taking a whole lot of damage, as well as putting up buffs every time. Now, the reason why we're putting up buffs every time is because Mulhex here has this lovely ability. Let's go talk about this passive. And any attack by an ally buffed with a positive effect reduces this character's ability cooldowns by 1. This means all of his cooldowns. This means his A2, his ultimate. His ultimate is a 200% damage with an attack up and can land a defensive down if he has focus. His A2 is AoE damage. And then it launches a bonus attack with this ability, which means he will then do an A1, which can also land a defensive down. So he's a lot of chances to do a lot of damage, and as well as he can proc a lot of bonus attacks once this A2 is unlocked. That happens quite often. What happens is sometimes you'll get a double proc here, and he'll go through and he'll just do a lot of damage for us, and it's just amazing because this little ability here allows him to do a lot of damage very quickly, and every single attack here works. So even when we get bonus turns, it seems to work. Opal seems to proc the cooldowns on Mulhex because she's doing the joint attack. It seems to lower that cooldown from what I've noticed. So we're able to go ahead and get a lot of damage flowing here. Defensive down stays up most of the time. We do really need to get some more focus on Mulhex, and I think that would do a lot more for us because we'd keep more defensive down the entire fight. We do keep it up majority of the fight, but we do lose it here and there, and that's a slight problem when trying to calculate a boatload of damage, right? But notice we're 8 rounds in, we're already 310k damage. We're doing pretty decent. Mulhex is really popping off. You're noticing the ultimate animations here are going very quickly. And that's because he has plenty of time to put them. Notice we did land the defensive down there, which is awesome. We also have William placing defensive down, and we're getting the counterattacks. This comp is built basically to do the damage, and it's built so that way Brand takes all the damage. Brand is the target because you will notice everyone in this formation is all water element. This means that they are all strong element against the guild boss, which then makes Brand the target of the single target damage because he is the fire element. So generally speaking, he is the most weak or neutral to the boss, so that makes him the target of the single attack. Now, we still take a lot of damage, which is very problematic. Notice that everyone does, every time they take a turn though, tick up on HP. That is because I do have every single character in this composition in a revival set. I feel like revival set, honestly, is probably the best set to use on your guild boss compositions if you want them to try to go the distance. If you are not trying to go the distance, if you just want to do a quick burst it down style of damage, honestly, you don't necessarily need it then. At that point, you can go with your, you're gonna obviously want to get like the assassin set. You're gonna want to get, you know, a warrior set, maybe a curse set. Curse sets are amazing for the guild boss. However, when you have compositions like this where we don't have an exact healer, our healer in this case is honestly going to be the revival set, because everyone is doing so much damage so quickly. By everyone, I mean Opal and Mulhex, as you saw there. Opal just killed herself because she procced all of her counterattack or her joint attacks. So now she killed off. The only damage dealer we technically have left is going to be Mulhex. This is probably going to end very, very soon. Yeah, it's about done. There we just lost our other damage dealer. So we'll go ahead and we'll see how much longer these two hang out here. They won't be very long. We'll probably hit about 575 is what I'm thinking damage wise. We'll see how close I am. But nonetheless, not a bad deal. It did quite a bit of damage. We're going to talk about the gear I have on here. Opal has some really good stats. Mulhex has pretty decent stats, but I feel like we could probably get a little bit more out of Mulhex. Like I said, if we can get him a little bit more focused, I feel like keeping defensive down on the boss the entire time would be very helpful. I think that would definitely benefit the damage numbers that we really want to see here. Yeah, it looks like we're gonna hit right around 575 because I know this should rip off the Shield of Mercies, and then next attack will kill him. All right, should be 560. Yep, actually we won't even, I don't even think we're gonna hit that 575 mark, unfortunately. We're gonna be just shy of it, and that's okay. Not the end of the world. 560, it's a respectable run. I do want to pull up, show you guys the damage that was done, and we'll apply that when we talk about the stats of the characters. This is why I say it's also not that worth it either, because we are still getting 5-star gear. I will not use this. It is focus, which I love on a rebel set, but not usable. This is a 5-star ring. Can't use it. Let's look at the battle report. Now notice the amount of damage we did here. Opal did almost 300k damage, but Mulhex did 219,000 damage. That's pretty reputable when we know at the current moment Opal is probably the strongest single target nuker or damage dealer as far as the water element goes. She can surpass Ciara. I know she surpasses Thalia as far as single target damage. Now granted, splash damage, you know, that's a totally different thing. There's a different way, different metric to tally that. But as far as single target damage goes, Opal is top tier. Mulhex is not that far behind with his 218k. That's why I kind of wanted to showcase this, is because I was playing with it and I was like, you know what, this is kind of fun. I like having Mulhex in here because I've been playing with Mulhex. I've been trying to see what kind of compositions he's going to work well with, who to pair him with, and how to get the most bang out of your buck, because I know this passive ability, any attack and ally buff with positive effect reduces this character's ability cooldowns by 1 turn. I know that could be very, very, very impactful in a good fight, and its health is at an S tier. For those of you who are not aware, when you can run a character in an S tier trait of HP, this means they're super easy to scale HP wise, because what you want out of a nuker and out of a damage dealer is not always just a glass cannon. You want to be able to have a little bit of sustain with them, with a little bit of HT, just so that with HP, sorry, that way they can just take a little bit of damage and still keep on ticking throughout the fight. Mulhex, he's very easy to do that with. Now notice we have some level 15 pieces of gear here. We don't have his boots, could definitely go up. Just his boots, I guess, are the only ones that aren't perfect here. But stat wise, we're looking at about 3,700 attack. That's kind of low. 4k would be a little bit better. Crit damage, we're at 289. That's pretty decent. 106 crit rate, we're a little high. Like I said, this focus is way too low at 23%. This really should be about 60% or so. And he would potentially land almost all the time these defensive downs, which would definitely help with doing the damage, scaling it up super high. However, he does a whole lot of damage because, one, his ultimate is the 200% damage. He always has an attack up for the team because it's a 7-turn cooldown, and every time a teammate attacks with any positive effect that lowers this down, this means this essentially becomes a 2-turn cooldown when paired with a brand. So that's why we bring him in here, is because ultimate is really a 2-turn cooldown, and on top of being a two turns, because everyone's going to get a turn, right? So round wise, that's because his A2 ability here is essentially once every round. So because it's a 4-turn cooldown that then launches a bonus attack, well then as everyone else goes, 4 characters will go again before he gets to go again. That means this is almost always up, right? Until this gets cycles in here. So this means he's always doing 200% damage on one. Then he's coming over here and he's going to do 100% damage plus 100% damage. So with a 30% chance to blight defensive down, and then if this character has attack up, then launches a bonus attack with this ability, this stays up constantly because it's on a 2-turn cooldown, as well as with brand, right? So we're always going to have attack up on Mulhex, as well as these every round these get reset because of his passive ability. So as long as you pair him with brand, he's always going to do 200% damage every single attack. So he does a boatload of damage very quickly for you, versus a lot of other characters who necessarily don't, which makes him very, very impactful for damage. Let's also talk about, you saw his stats, his gear. His gear is all revival gear here. That I definitely recommend doing that. I would like to get a warrior piece over here to make him do a little bit more damage, scale his attack higher, that we can do even more. So essentially he's doing 200% damage every single attack. That's why I brought him in there, because even though some characters do more damage, they don't do that consistently every single attack. Now, we have Opal. She deals 200% damage to an enemy and grants joint attack for 1 turn. Extend joint attack by 1 turn upon the defeat of an enemy. Unfortunately, we can never defeat the guild boss. This kind of is a bummer. However, this means it's a 3-turn cooldown, so she's constantly going again and again and again. proccing all that damage, 200% damage as well. The joint attacks are just insane. This also allows her not to get one shot, which she, I mean, let's be honest here, she never will. She'll kill herself before this even happens. Her A1 though is a 100% damage to a character, which is fine. And then as it ramps up here, you know, we get more and more damage each time. That's definitely impactful. Basic ability strength scales with rage. This character has gained significant rage from repeated attacks on the same target. Now, the reason why this is very impactful is because we're only attacking one target. So we once again, just like Mulhex, like I was talking about, right, guys? We scale up to this 200%, right? So we're literally just going to keep scaling up to 200%. So we're just going to do more and more and more damage. This is why we bring Opal and Mulhex in here, because her ultimate is 200% on top of all of her joint attacks. Her joint attacks are going to be a basic attack that scales up, right? So then she does a crap load of damage that way. And like you saw, she out damaged Mulhex by the 80% damage, which is impressive. But they harmonize so well together because they're always both doing almost 200% damage all the time, which makes them super impactful in this composition. Not to mention her attack is at an S tier. I wish her HP was not at a B tier. Even if it was just an A tier, we'd go a lot more distance here, because stat wise, this is the stats we're running. Our HP is way too low. I really needed about another 2k to 3k HP on her to really make her do a lot more damage. We are sitting at 105 crit rate, which is cool. 100% 0.5. It's really, really cool. I like that. 312 crit damage. That's really good. Attack at 3,500. 4K would be really, really nice. But you know what? We got a lot of crit damage here, which is very, very good. Precision's 110, agility 14. I was hoping to get more agile on her, so as she, you know, maybe deflects more damage back to her. Did not happen, unfortunately. But if I just get her 2k more HP, I think this could do a lot more damage than what it does now. Next character we're going to talk about is going to be Brand. He is the pivotal character on this composition because he takes all the attacks every time up until the DPS die, in which then eventually Brand dies shortly after, like you saw, which is how this should be tuned. Once again, he is in revival gear, he is in raider gear. Now I keep him in this type of gear because I use him in other content levels. I use him in Void Tower. I use him a lot in other dungeons. I use him in Endless Trials and Arena. I use him everywhere. So let's go look at his stats. He's at 26k HP, 2000 defense. That's kind of the base I always stick with him. Speed is 215, so he's always first. Focus is at 78%, which is good. However, it doesn't really do as much good because we're not going to taunt the guild boss. However, we will always keep an attack down on the guild boss, which is what we needed from him. Agility is a 19, which doesn't do us any good. So that's pretty decent. In revival set though, definitely keep in mind of that. Next we're going to talk about is William. Now William is very impactful in this composition, like I was saying during that run, because he is essentially using his A1 to proc a lot of joint attacks. He's doing the defensive down for us, which is guaranteed. He's also keeping up the counter attacks and the defensive up on certain characters. That definitely makes surviving rounds much easier. And on top of that, you know how I was saying I wanted more attack on our champions? Well, William's passive, don't forget about it. It does deal 60% more damage. This gave Mulhex and Opal a boatload more damage potential just because of this passive ability. So he brings a lot to the table, not to mention everyone has a buff on them all the time, which is what Mulhex needs for his special ability for reducing cooldowns. That way he's always doing 200% damage each time he goes. So this is why this composition works. This is the synergy behind it. Let's go, wait, before I forget, I almost messed up. You almost let me mess up, guys. I apologize. We need to talk about his stats. His HP is at 25k. Defense is at 1800. Speed 193. He needs to go after Brand. Focus is at 85, and I like that focus number. Honestly, I'd probably like to get up to about 100, 125. That way I can always have him built properly to go into any dungeon or into any content at 125%. That pretty much allows me to go anywhere with him. But for this purposes here, this worked really, really well. And as you saw, William was in no way, shape, or form anywhere close to dying. And we were able to get, in my opinion, a fair amount of damage. So let me know your comments down below. Let me know if this composition helps you. what you kind of thought about it, if this was a fun one for you guys. If you guys have Mulhex and you've been trying to figure out where you want to use him or why you want to use him, there is a good pairing. Like I said, attack up is on the entire fight. Is always doing 200% damage. So he definitely could be a guild boss extraordinaire. Stay tuned. We're gonna do a definitely do a spotlight on Mulhex very, very soon. All right. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.